Earth to Richter Dawn. We need you.
Yo, what's good? So I just saw I Know What You Did Last Summer. I was a big fan. Big fan is strong. I was a fan. That's still kind of strong. I liked the very first one that released in what, 97. Then it kind of went the way of the dodo bird with I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and then from there it just went off the rails into the supernatural. And I was like, okay, this is about where I exit. So when I heard of the remake, I knew at some point I was going to have to check it out to see what it's about. I heard a lot about the movie. I heard that it was basically a retread of the original, and thus there was no real reason to go see this one because it was essentially the exact same thing as the first one. I am extremely happy that I did not listen to those people because for the better part of this film, it was extremely fun. It was a fun movie. I didn't think I would say that on the way out. And there was one point during this movie that I said to myself, this is actually better than the latest Scream. All right, what is it? Scream 6? I forget. But the point is, at one point in this film, because it's always been this rivalry between I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream, if you know, you know. And at one point I was saying to myself, I am enjoying this film more than I enjoyed the last Scream that came out. The last Scream was okay to decent, right? But this one, it started off very strong. And, you know, at one point, I said to myself, why aren't the FBI being involved in this? Because whoever the killer was, and I'll talk about the killer later, and I'll let you know before I do it, just in case you want to go in, you know, blind. But at one point during this film, I said, why aren't the FBI involved? Like, the killer in this movie was so effective. I don't think I've seen a horror movie where the killer was so effective. Like this person, the person who was doing the killing in this film, and it turned out to be two of them, but the person who did the killing in this film was like more effective than Jason Voorhees, was more effective than Michael Myers. Like Michael Myers has nothing on the person that was wrecking shop in this little town. Now the town is kind of small, Southport. You know, it's a small town, for crying out loud. And when I say that this killer went and killed just about everybody, it was like one person like, hey, I'm still here. Like, seriously, this thing was over the top. Now, at some point, they did reveal one of the killers. And I was like, it's just no way that this little tiny person is the same person I saw in that black suit, okay? Because this thing was like the Hulk, okay? When you look at it, you can figure out and get a good sense as to why a lot of the characters are basically being taken out, because it's like going to the gym, finding the biggest person there, or going to a football game and finding the biggest person on the field and saying, here, wear this suit, this black suit, and then give him a hook. That's who the killer was in this film, and he killed everything. There was a little mouse in the corner that had nothing to do with the movie. He went over and just stepped on it. That's a joke. It didn't happen. But I'm just saying he could have, because I'm telling you, this monster killer guy was just it's been a while since I've seen a human being, okay, a human being killed this much. And I'm saying to myself, why aren't the FBI involved? Because clearly the local police can't handle this guy. Clearly, man. But yeah, they kind of dropped the ball in the later act of the film. I thought for the first 3/4 of the film, it was effective, it was fun, it was like shocking, it was just about everything that I didn't think it was going to be, because I was listening to YouTube reviewers and I thought to myself, oh, you know, maybe I'll pass on this one. But I needed something to do, and I'm telling you, I'm so glad I went to go see it, because for 3/4 of this movie, it was extremely effective to me, okay? And when you get to the fourth act, the final act, that's where they dropped the ball, because they did not trust the process. The process said, hey, stick with it. Look, you're going to get your payoff. Just keep going, and at the steady pace you're going, and just like human beings do, they dropped the ball because they overthought it. They overshot it. It just didn't make sense. It didn't line up with everything. And they almost, in my opinion, with this shocking reveal of the killer, it kind of ruins the first one. And I didn't like that. I thought that you don't go back and rewrite history. And it's almost as if they didn't know their own characters, because when you go back and you watch the original, you get a good sense of who the characters are. So it's like, this person would never do this. So I just didn't like the way that they just kind of went for this microwave ending, for the surprise shock factor ending. It sucked. There was clearly a better option. There was a better option. At some point in the movie, when they started to kind of narrow down who the killer is, They find a old photo of the guy that they killed, for lack of a better word. And within this photo is the guy that they killed, the pastor who they start to think was the killer, and it's this giant kid in the bottom left corner of the picture. Giant kid in the bottom left corner of the picture. He has long hair. He looks like the Incredible Hulk, literally. But they didn't pick him. They didn't allow that person to be the killer. And I was like, why? That was a drop ball. This film felt like he was supposed to be the killer, which is why he was in the photo in the first place. But then it was like, well, we just need something to really galvanize the audience and make them, shocked and surprised. And they went with this really weird ending. But that's just my personal opinion. I think when it comes to a rating, I think that most people will range between a 6.5 and an 8.5. There's no doubt there's going to be some people who just don't like it. They're going to go in and say, hey, I've seen this before. There's nothing new here. It's going to be a 6.5. But I also believe that there will be people who kind of had somewhat of an experience that I had and will rate it somewhere near the 8.5 mark. As for myself, I'm going to go about 7.7. I think that they nailed a lot of what they were trying to do. And like I said, towards the end, they kind of dropped the ball. Now, that is pretty much my review. Now, if you don't want to know anymore, this is a great time to leave. 3, 2, 1. How is Freddy, no pun intended, how was he the killer? It didn't make any sense. The motive did not make sense at all. Okay? And I'm going to try my best. I'm going to show you just how convoluted it gets, because it does get convoluted. But I'll give you my best interpretation of what the freak happened. So, a young lady is about to get married, and to celebrate, her and 4 other friends go out to look at the 4th of July fireworks. While they're on the road, one of the guys gets a little drunk, Teddy, and this causes cars to have to swerve around him, for lack of a better word. Well, this one car is headed toward their way, and in order to dodge Teddy and not hit him, he swerves into the railing and basically goes over. But either way, he dies eventually. He eventually dies. One way or the other. And then the next year, they get a letter saying, I know what you did last summer, and that's that. Well, we find out that one of the friends that was joining this group of individuals celebrating the 4th of July in this joyous occasion, the engagement, actually we find out that the person driving the car was coming to get her because she had just gotten sober from having some issues, some mental health issues. So he was driving to come and save her. And on his way to do that, he drives off the road because there's a guy in the middle of the freaking road. It's almost like a reversal, because I think the original, there's a guy in the middle of the road, and they swerve out of his way and then, hit him still, even though they swerved out his way. They still hit him. So it's kind of different. This time, the big baddie swerves out the way and meets his demise. So anyway, turns out that the young lady, because she was already having mental health issues anyway, she just was not able to accept this. This guy that was coming to save her, I believe his name is Scott, was a dear friend to her. He was the only one who really believed in her when she was going through her issues with alcohol or drugs. I'm not sure. But anyway, she decides to go on a killing spree. But here's where it gets weird. She works for Freddie Prinze Jr., who is one of the OGs from the original movie. She works for him for some reason. And, this is where it gets kind of goofy. She works for him. And apparently the movie wants you to believe that she enlisted his help to exact revenge on these people who killed, quote unquote, her savior. Okay? This is what the movie wants you to believe. What doesn't make sense is that Freddie Prinze Jr. would even do this because he just experienced it in 97. It was a very traumatic experience. The way that he tries to rationalize this is the town is forgetting our story. They're forgetting who we are. So that is why I helped her kill all these people, to let them know that our story mattered. Like, what? Who wrote that? Like, who thought that was a good idea? Seriously. Like, dude. Like, talk about checkers. You can't play checkers like that. Like, okay, we're going to go for this immediate gratification ending, and we're going to wipe out all common sense. First off, The minute she started to even allude to wanting to get back all these people, you would think the real character that I thought was in the movie would have said, "Hey, that's not the way you want to do it. You know, get therapy. I'm here to help you. Even though Scott is gone, I'll be here to kind of steer you along the way." That would have made more sense to me. No, he was like, "Hey, you know what? You know, I'll help you. I'll help you." Yeah, it's just like, why? And it don't make sense because when you look at the film and you look at all the people who met their demise, they all met their demise to this towering figure. I'm talking about a figure so big, he looked bigger than Freddie Prinze Jr. So at what point did she help? Because I didn't see any thin little hook slinger killing stuff. I saw this gigantic towering tank wiping things out. So that didn't make sense. I just was irritated, man. I love that they brought, Jennifer Love Hewitt back. I love that they brought Freddie Prinze Jr. back. We even saw Brandy come back. We saw Sarah Michelle Gellar come back. I loved all that. But what I did not like is the explanation for the killer. It made no sense at all to allow Freddie Prinze Jr. to be. There was a guy in the picture. All they had to do was say that was the son of Scott. That's all they had to do. He was the son of Scott. He had long hair. He was in a picture with Scott Judah, who was the pastor, and a bunch of other people. At the bottom left corner was a kid that was huge. He looked like he was a wrestler of some sort. He would have been the perfect killer, and it could have just said that was Scott's son. Good, done. We are we good? Let's keep it moving. And you could have had Freddie Prinze Jr., who is also equally sort of big, comparatively speaking, could have came in and saved the day. And his character would have stayed intact. That's all they had to do. They ruined it. At one point, I was saying to myself, this is better than the last Scream. And now I think they are about the same. Because just like the last Scream, they go for this weird cookie cutter ending rather than trusting the process and really fleshing the characters out. How about this for an idea? Maybe not reveal the killer. You don't have to have the killer reveal themselves and die at the end of the movie. Isn't that just so linear? Isn't that traditional? How about breaking the tradition? A lot of the most successful movies in the last 5 years have been movies who break tradition and do things different. I.e., Get Out, for example. It's just like, yo, that didn't make sense, y'all. Y'all did a good job up until that point. I really felt that the kills were very crunchy. The villain was very heavy. Like when he walked, you felt the ground tremble. I thought all that was well executed until you reveal the two killers. One being a skinny punk rock skateboarder female, okay, who can't kill nothing. I don't care what. And Freddie Prinze Jr. Come on, man. That's the best y'all got. They messed up on that part. They messed up. They should have left. You just kept it simple. Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. Because that didn't make sense. Anyway, that is what I experienced and, my opinions on the film. Will I go see it again? Absolutely not. But they did leave a couple loopholes. When Freddie Prinze Jr. shoots his accomplice, the young lady, while they're on the boat, he shoots her one time, and you can easily write that in as if he only shot on the shoulder, and she jumped into the water and somehow survived. That's an easy write-off. Then we saw, if you stayed past the credits, Jennifer Love Hewitt and Brandy kind of team up and say, "Hey, they're coming for you. They're coming for us, essentially. And are you going to help me wipe them out?" And Brandy says yes. So that's a sequel right there. So this is easily going to be made into a sequel or continue, I should say. Yeah, but it just sucks that Freddie Prinze Jr. won't be there. That's all I'm saying. All right, it's been good. Peace.